Okay, exponent rules. So 4 different rules: multiplying, then power to power, quotient, and then negative numbers. So when you're multiplying two numbers like it is in this first left-hand box, when you're multiplying these two things, you're going to add your exponents, because this really means I have 5 x's, and the second one means you have 2 x's. So you're saying, okay, well, how many total x's do I have? So that's just going to be x to the 7, because there's 5 here and 2 here. Okay? Now remember, if you're adding, if you have x to the 5th plus 2x to the 5th, you just combine like terms, so the number's out in front, so this is going to be 3x to the 5th. Exponents don't change when you add. Only exponents change when you multiply. Moving over to power, okay, again, this little 2 means you have this quantity twice. So just for note's sake, I'm going to write this out. Yes, there is a shortcut, and I'll show you what you screw up so you don't do that too. Okay, so again, you're going to multiply common things. So 3 times 3, which is 9. And then you've got 2 x's in each, so you got 4 total x's. And then you got 3 y's in each, so you have 6 total y's. Now, some of you might be saying, Miss Melanie, can't I just multiply those exponents? And you can. You can definitely do that. Here's the problem that I see kids run into, is when they go to the whole number. So this 3 and the exponent of 2. They want to multiply that 3 by 2 to become 6. Remember that this is 3 squared, and then x to the 2nd times 2, and y to the 3rd times 2. It might be a good habit to get into doing that, just so you know that it's 3 to the 2nd and not 3 times 2, and kind of get in a rhythm of doing multiplication, okay? Fight that urge. Do the extra work. Write it down twice. All right, when you're dividing, you're going to subtract your fractions because things are going to start canceling out. Numbers you treat the same way as if it was normal fraction. This 2 becomes a 1 and the 8 becomes a 4. Okay, now on the top, here's why we subtract our fractions. On the top you have 3 x's, and on the bottom you have 2. So if you're dividing, this x divided by x is just going to be a 1. Same thing with this one. That's going to be a 1. So you're left with 1 x left over and nothing to cancel with it on the bottom. So when you're simplifying this, you're going to have 1x left on the top of the fraction. Very similarly, with the y's, you have 4 on the top, and you have 5 on the bottom. Okay, if I start to cancel, okay, you got 1 left over, and where is it? Top or bottom? It's on the bottom, so you're going to leave it on the bottom. So if you want to just remember to subtract it, just think 5 minus 4 with the y's, and leave it where the largest exponent is. That's what we did, because the 5 was larger, so we put it on the bottom. Same thing with the x's. 3 minus 2 is 1, and we left it in the top because the 3 was larger. Now with the z's, you got z over z, and that cancels. So you have nothing left with z's. You don't even need to put a 1 anywhere because you have placeholders in both top and bottom of those fractions. Okay, now let's talk negative exponents. When you have a quantity to the negative 2nd power, remember what you do is you take this whole quantity, whatever it's to, and you move it down to the bottom. Now whatever's down in the bottom is going to stay there, okay? And you're just going to tack what's moving down next to it by multiplication. In this case, we don't need to write the 1 because it doesn't change anything, so I'm just going to write 3x squared now to the 2nd power. Notice that it did not change anything inside the parentheses. Even if I moved it down, the 2 inside it did not change to a negative. Okay? That's very important for you to realize, because if that 2 was negative, a lot of times kids would want to make it into a positive on the inside if you moved it to change that. Okay? The reason why we're moving this whole thing is to change that and only that. So nothing else will change. Okay? So now we're going to leave a 1 on the top when you think there's nothing there. There is. It's a 1. So we're going to go ahead and distribute this 2, but I'm going to be smart and learn from my mistake from last time that 3 to the 2nd is not 6. 3 to the 2nd is 9. And then it's going to be x to the 4th with a 1 on the top. Okay. All right, let's take a look if I've got individual things to the negative exponent. You're going to take those negative exponents and move them to the bottom. Same thing with this guy, and you're going to move that to the top. Everything else stays the same. 2x to the 4th over y to the 2nd. Oh, and I forgot to the x to the 3rd. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify this some more. X to the 7th over y to the 2nd. Okay. Now, I'm going to do a side note here and do another one. If I did this, 2x to the negative 3rd, y to the 2nd, over x to the 4th. Okay. Here's where kids mess up again. Kids want to take both of those things. You can't take both of them. Why? Because the 2 is completely separate from the x to the 3rd. Just like the x to the 3rd is separate from y to the 2nd, that's why 2 is separate from x to the 3rd. So you're just going to move what's on the negative. Now, if there's with parentheses around it, different story. Excuse me. But it's just the x to the negative 3rd that's out in the negative. So you're just going to move that guy down. So this one would be 2y squared over x to the 7th. Okay, so a little different problem. Remember that everything is separated by multiplication, regardless of if it has an exponent or if it doesn't. Now what happens if you have the whole thing to the negative? Well, here's my suggestion to you. Always simplify what's inside the fraction first. It'll make your life a lot easier. So if I'm looking at this and I ignore this negative 2 for a second, I'm going to simplify this. So I have a on the top and a on the bottom, which leaves me an a in the bottom. And this b to the negative 3rd needs to come up to become positive. So that's going to move a b to the 3rd here, making a total of 5 b's on the top. Now I'm going to bring in that negative 2nd again. So when I have a whole negative 2nd, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the whole entire fraction to make this negative 2 a positive. So the a is going to be on top, the b to the 5th is going to be on the bottom. Again, everything stays the same. Even if you change the b to the 5th to the bottom, it's still going to stay positive because the reason that you changed is because this 2 needed to be made positive. And I just wrote a negative again. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2 to the a and the b. So you got a to the 2nd over b to the 5th for your final answer. Okay, let's go practice. I want you to try these 4 problems, okay? 4 problems, try them out. So pause the video and then check your work and I'll take you through them all and show you the answers. So we're just combining like terms here, so this is going to be 7x to the 2nd. Exponents don't change when you add, only multiply. Number 2, you got 5 and 4, that makes 20, and you're going to add your exponents, so you're going to get 8. With this one, you got to distribute that 4. Remember, it's not 2 times 4, it's not 8, it's 2 to the 4. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16, x to the 12th. And last but not least, again, simplify inside first. Big thing, negative numbers, perfectly fine. Leave them where they are. So that negative 5 is going to stay on the bottom. Okay, a to the 5th is going to stay on the bottom. B to the 3rd will move up to the top and stay with that other b to the 3rd, but this a to the 5th needs to move down to the bottom. Okay, so inside I have b to the 6th over negative 5, a to the 10th. Now I'm going to bring in that other negative 2 here. Remember, to make that negative 2 a positive, you're going to flip the whole entire fraction, keeping everything inside the same sign. And then we're going to apply that 2. So negative 5 to the 2nd is a positive 25. 10 times 2 is 20. And 6 times 2 is 12.